What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Daniel Starkand, here to talk NLDS. We've got an opponent, Daniel. The Arizona Diamondbacks sweep the Milwaukee Brewers. They win both games in Milwaukee pretty comfortably, to be honest. And today we're just chatting instant reaction. This isn't a deep dive. That's coming later in the week. But give me just your initial thoughts on the Diamondbacks beating the Brewers and the interdivision matchup that will now take place in the NLDS.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was just the randomness of the MLB postseason, and we've talked about this a lot. I don't think too many people picked the Diamondbacks to beat the Brewers, especially not when you looked at the starting pitching matchups. Everyone knows how great the Brewers pitching staff was. The Diamondbacks were kind of the last team that snuck in, like on the second to last game of the season. So I definitely wasn't expecting a sweep in Milwaukee. So that was a little surprising. As far as the matchup goes, like, let me just start by saying that regardless of who the Dodgers are playing in October, I'm going to be nervous. Like, it goes back to the whole randomness thing. Like, we've seen this team lose to plenty of inferior opponents in October. So, and especially coming off last year, like, you can't take any team lightly. With that being said, though, I think almost everyone could agree that out of the 8 teams that are left, I think the Diamondbacks are like clearly the worst. So if you could have picked your opponent, I think this is the opponent the Dodgers would have picked. I know the D-backs kind of had their number all the way back in April, but then the Dodgers dominated them ever since then. You know, when you look at the other NL matchup, the Braves and the Phillies, I think both of those teams are clearly better than the Diamondbacks. So I think all things considered, this is the matchup you want if you're the Dodgers. But at the end of the day, you still can't take them lightly. You still got to go out and win the games.
Yeah, you want to talk about the randomness. So the Brewers were 8 games better than the Diamondbacks in the regular season. The Brewers had a run differential of plus 81. The Diamondbacks actually had a negative run differential of negative 15. That was worse than the Mets run differential, if you want some context on that. The Diamondbacks were tied with the Mets when it comes to second half records. They were 6 games under 500 in the second half. They lost their last 4 games of the regular season to back in to the playoffs. And then they go out and sweep the Brewers twice in Milwaukee. Like, that just tells you, to the point you're making, regardless of who the opponent is, you should be nervous. As far as the Diamondbacks go, you hinted at this. The Dodgers played the Diamondbacks 13 times this year, which is sort of misleading because they played the Diamondbacks 8 of the first 10 games of the entire regular season, and they were 3-5 in those matchups. Fast forward, they played them just 5 times in the second half. The Dodgers won all 5. They swept them at the end of August, the most recent meeting. So that gets them to 8-5 on the season. I'm with you. We said in our preview, like, the Diamondbacks, on one hand, nobody should be taken lightly. And on the other hand, I like the matchup against the Diamondbacks. Selfishly, emotionally, losing to the Diamondbacks would not cripple me in the way that losing to the Padres or Giants would. I just don't hate the Diamondbacks in the same way. But B, they have some good pitchers we'll get to here in a second. Obviously, they've got some dynamic young players. But on the whole, this isn't a roster that you look up and down in the same way the Phillies or the Braves and say, holy smokes, like, what are we going to do with that guy? Of course, Christian Walker kills the Dodgers, but like Corbin Carroll, like, those aren't guys on the same level of Bryce Harper and Trey Turner and whoever else the Phillies and those folks might throw at you. So looking at the pitching side, Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen look to be the game 1 and game 2 starters. Kelly didn't pitch in the wild card round, so he'll be fresh. Gallen will be perfectly rested, and the rest in the NLDS actually allows everybody to pitch on normal rest throughout the series as well. When I look at Merrill Kelly, the Dodgers have had success against Merrill Kelly. I went and looked at sort of opponent's batting average against. The Dodgers have a number of guys who have seen him 10 or more times. Just of those 8 players, just one has an on-base percentage under 350. So they've hit Merrill Kelly well. Gallen, on the other hand, a completely different story. 6 Dodgers have 10 or more at-bats against him, and just 2 of them are hitting more than 200 against Zach Gallen. So the pitching side, it's not Milwaukee, but those 2 guys should not be taken lightly. Give me your thoughts on Kershaw versus Kelly in game 1, Miller versus Gallen in game 2.
Yeah, I think my thoughts are that there's not going to be many surprises this series. Like, these are 2 teams that have played each other a lot. The 2 pitchers you just named, the Dodgers have faced those guys a lot.
Yeah.
And it goes the same the other way around. Obviously, Arizona has seen Clayton Kershaw a lot and so forth. So it should be an interesting matchup. I think we've talked about how the days off is an advantage for the Dodgers, and I still believe that. But it's kind of helping out the Diamondbacks here because they're coming off a wild card series, and they're still going to have their pitching lined up basically how they want it to, just because of the number of off days in the series. So we're going to get Kelly and Gallen twice each. That's 4 of the 5 games, and you're going to have to beat them. But like you said, I think Gallen is the clearly better than Merrill Kelly. I know the Dodgers have hit Kelly well in the past. Gallen's kind of in that Cy Young conversation. So that to me, he'll be throwing game 2. That's the tougher matchup. So with that being said, I don't want to say game 1's a must win by any means, but that's definitely a game with Clayton Kershaw on the mound against a guy that you fared well against. You really need to go out and set the tone for the series in game 1 on Saturday.
Yeah. I'm with you. And again, the Dodgers could lose the first 2. They will not be eliminated from this series. But one thing you touched on that I think is significant, these teams are going to be really familiar with each other, which isn't the case necessarily all of the time. I think that's an advantage for the Dodgers. This is where having what you believe to be better coaching, better analytics, better all of that plays into it. If you think you have better players, Freddie Freeman is going to be a better player if he's seen a guy 15, 20 times in his career. Mookie Betts, same thing. And one name I'll throw at you, which I know has kind of been dragged through the mud a little bit over the last month. One guy who has hit both Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen very, very well is Dodgers catcher Will Smith. Against Merrill Kelly, he has a 323 batting average and an 873 OPS. And against Zach Gallen, he has a 375 batting average and a 974 OPS. That's in 16 at-bats against Gallen and 31 at-bats against Merrill Kelly. So if there's a guy that you need to get right, and it's Will Smith, and he's going to see 2 pitchers in game 1 and game 2 that he has hit well against, I think that bodes well for the Dodgers. Just throwing it out there. Real quick, Daniel, you knew I was going to ask you. Give me just your rapid response to the Diamondbacks and give me a prediction for the 5-game series that is coming up.
I think my response was like, this is best case scenario. It's kind of what I talked about, at the beginning of this, where you never want to take any opponent lightly. But if you look at the 8 teams that are left standing right now, I think it's pretty clear that the Diamondbacks are the 8th team. But they just played a great series against the Brewers. So you always have to keep that in mind. So I'll give them a game. I'll go Dodgers in 4 here. Would love to see a sweep. Would love to see pitching set up nicely for the NLCS, where it's in theory going to be a much tougher series. And we've seen in the past where the Dodgers have gone 5 games in the NLDS and it's kind of hurt their pitching for the next round. So I definitely think it would be ideal to take care of business in 3 here, but I'll say Dodgers in 4. I'll give the D-backs a little bit of respect.
Yeah, I'm going to go Diamondbacks in 5. I think or excuse me, sorry. Let me
Diamondbacks in 5.
Dodgers in 5. Dodgers in 5. Not pulling a Blake over here, okay? Jeez Louise. Dodgers in 5. Dodgers in 5. Moreno's going to clip that. I already know it, and I'm going to get sent it in a text message later today. Dodgers in 5. I think the Diamondbacks, I felt way better about this matchup, and I'm not going to overreact to 2 games, and yet they were really bad to end the regular season, and I was like, man, if they can get the Diamondbacks somehow, I'd feel better. They handled their business. Their pitching is set up well. They didn't have to go to a 3rd game against Milwaukee, which would leave them strained a little bit coming in. So I think the Dodgers win, but I think the Diamondbacks make this interesting. And look, if you have to go game 5 against Zach Gallen, that's not going to be something that you're looking forward to or that you're going to feel super confident in. But again, I think the Dodgers get this done. I think they're just a better team. I think home field advantage is going to play a factor here. And I think the fact that the Dodgers have seen them so much is going to be an advantage of the Dodgers. So let me reiterate one more time. I have the Dodgers in 5 games. Daniel has the Dodgers in 4 games. Tons of content coming this week. By the way, Jeff Erickson of RotoWire will be on our show Friday morning to do a little bit of a betting preview for the series. Friday night, we have a live preview show at 9 p.m. That will be myself, Matthew Moreno, and Blake Williams, live on YouTube, live on Facebook. So make sure you join us for that. And then tons of pregame and postgame content on Saturday for game 1 of the NLDS. So make sure you subscribe here, ring the notification bell as well. That is Daniel Starkand. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, folks, go Dodgers.